right, so next up we have David Walega. Is that how you pronounce it? Walega. David Walega. And David has a show right now at Gallery X, Tiny Poems Everywhere. So definitely check that out next time you're in downtown New Bedford.
Gallery X is awesome.
Gallery X is awesome. I think we have quite a few artists tonight who are showing or frequently show at Gallery X. It's a great venue, highly recommend.
So hi everybody, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy that New Bedford Light is here. It's long story short is I grew up in Massachusetts and I left when I was 18 thinking there was nothing to go back to, and I moved back during COVID. And I was so delighted that there's an arts community, things are happening in New Bedford. It was just unbelievable that I'm staying now. You know, it's like I never thought that this would be a place that I could actually have so much stimulation with other artists and that sort of thing. So I'm really happy to be here. So thank you for having these kind of venues and these kind of events. So I basically cut my teeth on photojournalism in my 20s. I was working for a bunch of organizations like UNICEF and going into war zones and working with homeless folks and different things like that. And really burned out really quickly as far as just, I continued to work, but I just needed something that was all my own. And I discovered a pinhole camera. So basically these are images from a pinhole camera that is a simple wooden box. And when I say it's a pinhole camera, it's literally like you open it up, there's a pinhole, and it exposes the film in the back. So the exposures can be anywhere from like 30 seconds to like hours, depending on the light. And I've just sort of intuitively, after 20 years of doing it, I understand like how much light I need. But there's no viewfinder, there's no nothing. So you just understand after a lot of mess ups how long and where to point the camera. So Lincoln Park was a place as a youth I used to go all the time, and when it was closed, of course it was this like photographer's dream to break in and take photographs. So I was crawling all over the roller coaster and taking photos, knowing that any second a security guard might kick me out, right? So I climbed up all over it. Wasn't it the Comet? Wasn't it called the Comet? But I was crawling all over it, and this is just one of several, but this is one of the ones that really made me happy because of the exposure and the movement, and it just captures that idea of a wooden roller coaster. It was horrifying because it was wooden. It could fall down at any moment. So this is just nostalgic, but it also shows like what you can actually do with a simple wooden box. You know, it's just sort of like, this goes back to, there are scrolls in China like centuries ago of people using a whole room and putting a pinhole in the wall and being able to draw structures and things like that and get a sense of architecture and such before there was even an idea of lenses being able to refract light. So it's centuries old analog technology, and I took it on as my goal to make it my own. You know, so it's not a gimmick, it's not an Instagram filter. This is the real deal. And so the second photo up to the left is I used to visit LA and then I moved there, but Hollywood and the Hollywood system has so many strange and wonderful people involved in it, but outside Mann's Chinese Theater are these people that dress up in different outfits. It was like Michael Jackson and Marilyn Monroe and all these different people, but Batman was there. And I gave him $5 to stand still for 30 seconds, knowing that in 30 seconds, that's why there is so much movement in his wings, is that the wind was moving his capes and his wings moves around, and that's what gives it that sort of strange aura or look to him. And that's what's so great about the pinhole camera, is that since there is such a long exposure, the light just kind of envelops your subject. It's really an amazing thing where the lens in a normal camera distributes the light so it's equal, but in a pinhole camera, it begins in the middle and burns its way out. So it's always just an amazing thing to get back to film, because you do not know what you're going to get. But at this point, I kind of intuitively know what I'm going to get. So I'm just very proud and happy to have this work, and it's my way of having a sort of meditative outlet, where the photojournalism and the working in Africa and displaced peoples was very hardcore and interesting and draining. This is my meditative sort of work that I go to when I need a break from my other work. So to me, it's every time an image comes out the way I wanted to, or better than I wanted to, it's always a celebration. So, yeah, so that's
Wonderful work, David. Thank you so much for sharing. Again, make sure to check that out at Gallery X, Tiny Poems Everywhere. And check out the program for more of David's contact info. Sorry, did you have a question?
Is it still a gelatin print, or is it a traditional print process, or
These particular prints are not silver gelatin prints, but the originals that I did that were very small were silver gelatin prints. So if you go see the show at Gallery X until October 2nd, I think, most of them are silver gelatin prints, but to blow them up this big is a digital file. Because it's like, I did that like 10 years ago. I blew a bunch of these things into my bathroom, in the shower. I was dripping in chemistry. It was horrible. So now with digital photography, you can blow them up this big. Yeah.
how big is your negative?
So it's literally 4x5. So like, I have an 8x10 camera and a 4x5, but the negative is literally this big. So it's a nice large negative. So you have a lot to work with. And then the 8x10s are beautiful too. So when they don't work out, it really sucks, because it costs a lot of money and a lot of time and effort. But when it works out, it's super, like, it just feels really, really good when you get it.
Did you make the camera?
I actually bought this one. I have made ones in the past, but just having things that work and can clamp down was more important to me at that point than building ones myself, because I have built ones myself.
I've read a pinhole cameras before, but I know nothing about them. What do you do, just slide the shutter?
Yes, literally. This is a film holder, and when you open it up, it reveals the film.
Yeah.
And then you just slide it shut. And this is, the exposure is, I just sort of know on top of my head now to it's this 400 ASA film. It's going to be 30 seconds long, and I just count it out. And then
That's what you're using 400 feet for?
usually, yeah. So even in low light, I get something.
I have two questions. Where do you get your film? And the second question is, what is your subject matter moving forward?
So where I get my film is B&H Film in New York still has 4x5 and 8x10, and there's another place in Providence, I can't think of the name right now, but you can. The hard part is getting it developed, because I don't have a darkroom anymore. So there's a few places that still develop negatives that big, an 8x10 negative. And my subjects moving forward is I'm trying to do a portrait of the Mattapoisett River, because that's where I'm from, is Mattapoisett. And I actually had a kayak, and I put my tripod. You have to have a tripod, because you have to hold the camera still. But still, the kayak moves with the motion of the waves. So I'm getting these really atmospheric, beautiful photographs that just have this sense of the river and the nature around it. But yeah, they sort of like, you have to embrace the weirdness and change, so, because you don't have any control over it, so.
That sounds super cool. I'm very excited to see those. Thank you all for your brilliant questions. And please, if you have any more questions, hang on to them, because we're going to have about 30 minutes after our presentations for you to just hang out and mingle with the artists, ask them whatever you want to know, have a better look at that pinhole camera. But next up, we've got Paulina Fuenzalida Guzman. She is a fiber artist. She's also one of my buddies from UMass.